Now, I don't know if you can see, but the blue for my sky up here has come right down into this shape. But this shape, as it's drying, is going to pale. So I'm going to go back over it with the orangey mix over here in a minute. And it's a bit drier. It's still a bit too wet. Now this bit on the right is actually drying off quite nicely and is ready for a bit more of that, well, I'd say the orangey sienna colour. So I'm going to just see what it, yeah, it's a bit too strong. I'm just dropping a bit of that in over the top of that colour underneath, just to warm it up a bit. And again, so I don't have a dark edge or anything, I'm just softening it with water on my brush, just on the very edge. Just lightly tap it with water. It's interesting, down here, it sort of almost goes back into a sort of pale blue as well. So maybe I'll just put a bit more blue down there.
On my screen, the colour of the sky is very different. It's more a little bit of violet colour.
What are you talking about? This one
at the top of the page? Yes.
Yes, it is. It's kind of, it's blue that's got a little bit of alizarin in it by the looks of it.
Have you put alizarin in yours?
Yes, I have.
Oh.
And while I'm waiting, I'm just going to drop a little bit more blue back into this top right-hand corner. Just a few dots of the original blue, just because it's gone a bit pale as it dries. I'm going to help mine along a bit and use my hairdryer, so just to dry off a bit of this bottom of the blue bit in the sky. I want it bone dry, so it's damp, but it's not as wet as it was. And now I think I can go back with that orangey colour over the top. And again, I'm softening it with water so that it looks as though it's fused in naturally. Remember, you can use your sponge if any cauliflowery bits appear. Right. How are we getting on? I don't want to go too fast. Is everybody all right? Anybody not all right?
I'm not all right.
I'm going to make a start on this bottom left-hand corner, which really does look as though he's done it initially with that orange mix, and then I suspect, well, what you could do is add a bit of tiny bit of alizarin and vermilion to it to make a sort of like a equivalent of a burnt sienna, because it does look like he may have used burnt sienna down there, just a few touches. But if you haven't got burnt sienna, you can make the equivalent of that color by just very carefully adding a little bit of alizarin and a little bit of vermilion to your orange mix in a separate well. Don't do it in the same one, otherwise you'll lose your original orange mix. So I'm going to have a go at doing that next. And I haven't dampened this, so I'm going to dampen this before I do. I think the feel of this is it's all very wet, and he's done a lot of wet into wet. But you have to just judge it when it's just about right to drop your colour in. Don't try and do it too quickly, otherwise it will flow everywhere, of course. It looks like it's a tiny bit of dry brush technique down here as well. Now we have to remember those little white people on the hillside here. So before it dries, I'm going to get my paper towel and very carefully, in fact, you might like to look at this. I don't know whether it's going to be successful or not, but I'm going to wrap it round the edge of my brush at the end like this and try and lift out a little bit of colour. It's still wet enough for me to do that. Can you see what I've done?
No.
Yeah?
Mm.
Just two little white shapes so that I can get them in. I don't want to have to use white acrylic. I think if you just lift out a bit, they're not actually pure white, those their jackets. They look like they're almost cream, the shirts, but if you lift it out at this point, it will, before it's dry, then at least you've got a bit of help with it. And the other thing I would do, if it's dry, and only if it's dry, well, I think I'd wait a bit, but you can rub out the pencil line, but don't do it unless the paper's absolutely dry in that area. I'm going to use my hairdryer for this. Okay. I don't know if you can see this little cauliflower that's appeared down the bottom here on mine. but I'm going to get rid of it by just gently rubbing it with my damp sponge. Don't want that in there. And it's gone. Now this area here looks like it could have some blue bits on it in order to get those shadowy shapes on that piece of land there, and also whatever this is at the top of the brow of the hill. So I think you could just go back into your blue mixture, not the purpley one, but the original one, and literally just put a few ticks. Oh, that's too wet. Okay, well, wait, do it where it's dry. So here on the hill, I'm just going to put some ticks of blue, which again, I can go back over it with my orange mix to soften the blueness of it later on. It's where the water looks like he's indicating it's splashing up onto the hillside, but it may just be shadows, I'm not sure. And then I would start to put in some, possibly some darker blue areas on the, over here on the right, well, in the middle and on the right hand side of the painting. Same color, I'm just going over it with the blue. Not too much paint on your brush. It's easier to control when it's a little bit drier rather than sponge. And believe me, it's an invaluable thing. I've got a little box of them, and they come again from Jackson's. And I usually just leave it in the water so it absorbs some, clean water, and then use it when I need to make a correction on something. Now, would I can go back over this. Would it be beneficial to anybody to see me just put another coat of blue on this one? Yes,
Yeah.
no? Okay. So what I think I probably would do is just to get my brush with water and literally just go over that area where I want the blue and just dampen it lightly. I'm not soaking it like I did the first time. It's damp. Now, remember, you can modify the dampness as well by getting a clean piece of paper towel, and you can just lightly blot it so that if you put your hand on the back of it, it's definitely damp, but it's not wet. And then I would actually go back into that blue, or that sky blue mix that I made up. And I just give it another coat. Now, because the paper's damp, it's hopefully not going to give a hard edge. Yeah, that's about it. And again, I could actually get some water and just soften the edge along the edge if I wanted to as well. Just using water, just so it doesn't have an edge on it. Did you see? Yeah?
Yes.
Now here, I think this also needs another coat of orange. It's gone quite, because the blue ran underneath it initially, it's gone quite, well, it's gone a stony colour. So I might just go back with my orange, which I've got here, and just give it another little soft coat of orange across the top there. And again, like I said, with the sponge, if you want to, you can just soften it with the edge with a sponge as well. Right? Okay?
Yeah.
Can I carry on with this bottom bit now, or is there something, another part that people would like me to work on? I mean, this again needs building up, this area here. If you look at his painting, it looks like he's gone over it with, you know, burnt sienna and a bit of yellow ochre, actually, because it's quite orangey yellow, that area there. So I'm going to dampen it. This time I'm going to do it with my sponge. Just going to dampen that area. And then I'm going to go into the yellow ochre mixture and just apply a little bit here and there. Just remembering my little people down here. And then back into the orange, because it's got orange there as well.
Have you got vermilion in that orange?
No.
No, I just wondered. It's just that my what's it called? Raw sienna. It's a very soapy thing. So very soapy. It's not. It doesn't come up with that lovely kind of rich golden green that you're getting.
I use the Schmink. No, not that one. Yeah, Schmink raw sienna.
Yeah, and Prussian blue, is that?
A little bit of alizarin. Did I say alizarin? Tiny touch of alizarin, yes. Raw sienna, very tiny touch of alizarin.
Okay, so no blue.
No, I don't think there's any blue in this mixture, no.
So how's it coming out green?
Because it's going over the yellow ochre.
Oh, I see. Well, I sort of see.
So the colour underneath, I put on the sort of yellow ochre, and then I drop this orangey colour over the top.